Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome. I am here with a detailed look at and review of my newest Oracle deck to my collection. And that Oracle deck is Jessi Jumanji's Flora and Fauna of Africa Oracle deck. And when I say that this is the newest Oracle deck in my collection, I mean that I got it yesterday morning. And so this has to be record time for me, going from receiving a deck to making a video about it when it's not like a unboxing or anything, when it's actually a review of the deck, discussion of the deck. But I had the day off work yesterday, so I ended up spending pretty much the entire day getting to know this deck. And I work with animal decks quite a bit, so I feel like I just really couldn't wait to share this deck with you because I really, really love it. So without further ado, I will put below a link to Jessi Jumanji's shop where you can find your own copy of the deck. I will also timestamp this video. I plan on looking at the kind of production details of the deck, so things like the box and the cardstock. Then I will get into the layout of what the cards look like, how they're structured, the different kinds of animals that are included. I'm not going to do an entire flip through. There are other flip throughs around on YouTube, but just talk about the different types of animals kind of overall. Then I want to talk about the correspondences in the deck, so the ways that the different messages on the cards are paired with the animal on the card and with the plant on the card also. And then just a little bit about how I plan to work with this deck going forward. So this deck comes in a two-part box. It's very sturdy. It is going to be quite protective, I think. It's a nice hard box. The box is quite shiny, as you can see. This box is a nice one because it's easy to open. It's even easy to open when the cards are not in there. Sometimes boxes like this I find will be really hard to get open, especially when they're empty and you have to really shake the box. This one opens really well, which is great. It also came with, and this was a surprise, I don't know if it's a surprise because I didn't read the listing closely enough or because it's actually not included in the details on the shop website, but it also came with this bag. And this bag is a nice fabric, and the bag holds the deck inside the box. So the box is easy to open, but also if you keep it inside of the bag, then it won't fly open in your purse or something. So that's a great way to store the deck, in my opinion. The cards, there are 53 of the cards total. They're 3.5 by 5 inches in size. And the cardstock is described on Jessi's website as being black core linen M31 casino quality cardstock with smooth MPC finish. So these shuffle incredibly well. They're nice and slippery. They feel really like playing cardstock to me. They're very much bendy but not flimsy. They shuffle really well. I think they'll hold up really well. Playing cardstock is great for durability, right? Because playing cards are made to be shuffled a lot. So I really like that. It has a very slight texture of the linen finish, but not too much. They're on the thinner side again, but they feel very sturdy to me. And that's about how thick the deck is. That's almost all of the cards. I do have a couple set aside to show you in a minute. But it's a nice sized deck with the 53 cards. The backings of the cards look like this. So they're not reversible. I never use reversals with an animal deck, but I guess it's worth mentioning. And this image is not an image that appears on the front of any of the cards, but I have done a little bit of online research, and I'm fairly sure that this beautiful bird here is the malachite kingfisher from the pictures that I can find. And the malachite kingfisher is found throughout sub-Saharan Africa with the exception of the most dry and arid regions. So it's a bird that takes up, it has a large range. and very, very beautiful bird. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like a malachite kingfisher to me. Anyway, so that's the kind of production details of the deck, I suppose. Going on to the layout of the cards. Each card has one animal and one plant. And so you can see here, this is the angelfish card. And then behind it, we have the plant there, and the top corner would tell us that that's Copihu. And that's always in the top left corner is the plant. So for each animal and plant, you have their, I suppose, common name, conversational name, and then also their scientific name. The scientific name is helpful because a lot of these different plants and animals, of course, have lots of different subspecies and different types. So it's nice to have that there, I think. And so the cards, each one, again, we can look at quagga zebra here. Each one has the animal's name is in the large font. The scientific name for the animal is below. We see there Equus quagga. And then there's a short message for each animal. Here for this one, it's accept yourself unconditionally, embrace your differences and others. Everything isn't always black and white. Makes sense for the zebra. And then you have in the top corner of the card the name of the plant, in this case tiger lily, the scientific name for tiger lily, and then one keyword for the plant, which is harmony. So every card is laid out in this same way. And I wasn't sure at first when I was looking at this deck, getting ready to purchase it, I guess, like looking at the deck and even seeing in some cases, like other posts about the deck. I really wasn't sure what the medium of this would be, but it is worth mentioning, I think, just because they can look like they are, that these are not photographs. These are definitely, I think, paintings or maybe drawings, that are then colored in. They feel like they would be maybe images from a historic animal encyclopedia or something like that. They're definitely not photographs, though. So that is something to mention. And they're really, really beautiful in person. Like the photo on the shop does not capture how pretty these images are. They're amazing. So in terms of the animals represented in the deck, again, I'm not going to do a entire flick through of the deck. There's 53 cards. There are, again, other flip throughs online. But something to mention is that I really like the variety of animals in this deck. So I mentioned the angelfish card already. There are 2 fish cards in this deck. There are 2 mollusks in this deck, including the octopus here. There are 7 insects in the deck, including the mosquito featured here. There are 2 arachnids in the deck, including the tarantula included here. There are 22 mammals in the deck, so the mammals are definitely the largest represented group. So there's 22, including the spotted hyena here. Hyena is stubborn, doesn't want to focus. Oh, there we go. There's the hyena. There are 9 different birds in the deck, including the red jungle fowl, seen here. There are 5 different reptiles in the deck, including the Komodo dragon, seen here. There are 2 different crustaceans in the deck, including the toothed rock crab. And there are 2 amphibians in the deck, including the golden-backed frog. I think I know why the golden-backed frog got their name from that picture there. So, I point this out because I think that a lot of the time, the mammals are featured very, very prominently in animal decks, maybe to the exclusion of some of the others. And I think that this deck, does a really good job of a range of kinds of animals. And even though, the mammals are the most represented in the deck, I guess, with 22 cards out of 53 being mammals, but there's a really good range of mammals in this deck, including quite a few, I will say, that I don't think I've ever seen in a deck. So we have some mammals that sometimes I think are thought of as more domesticated, such as the donkey. We have some of the big cats featured, like the jaguar. There's also a lion card in there. We have a chimpanzee included. There's lots and lots of different ones. Caracol, I'm not sure about the second C in this one's name. I will have to look that up. I showed the elephant. So there's quite a good range. There are animals in here, 1 or 2, that I was not really familiar with at all before I got this deck and started reading about the different animals. And then there are many that are more familiar to me. So I really like when that variety is included. So going on to the correspondences on the deck. So again, every card in the deck, every card has an animal and a message with the animal, in this case, chameleon. And chameleon has a message there of don't just blend in and hide. Express yourself, assert yourself, trust your resilience. And then it has a plant, here passion flower, with a keyword adaptation. And where I think, from all the time I've spent with it so far, pretty much a full day, that this deck really, really shines for me is in the way that the animals and their messages have been paired together, and then also in the ways that the animal and the plant have been paired together, and the plant and its keyword been paired together. And I say that particularly as somebody who, doesn't really know very much about plants. I've spent a lot more time with animal decks and learning about animals and studying animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a kid, than I have with plants. So, a straightforwardly exclusively plant deck would definitely challenge me, particularly if there were no keywords. But I think that what Jessi's done really brilliantly in this deck is make these combinations and associations really in ways that make sense. The plant and the animal always feel like they go together in terms of meaning, I will say. Not necessarily go together in terms of like habitat or like the animal and the plant interact with each other in nature in any way necessarily, but really go together in terms of meaning, and also that the pairing of the animal and the message makes sense. The pairings of the plant and the plant keyword make sense. And then putting the animal and plant together also makes sense in terms of meanings. It is I don't know if I would say it's an affirmation deck. It's certainly a supportive and encouraging deck, I would say, in terms of its tone of the messages. It is very much an encouraging deck that I think would be great for daily draws in particular. But I wanted to share a couple of examples of the messages and the correspondences with the different animals and plants, just to show, why I say that I think that they go so well together, because I think it's brilliant. So again, just a couple of examples. I've picked 3 examples here to show you. The first is the Egyptian cobra card, which for a plant is paired with Solomon's seal. So the Egyptian cobra's message there is, you have power and grace. Know when to use your voice and when to use your venom. And there's the Egyptian cobra, and it is paired again with Solomon's seal and the keyword wisdom. So on first glance, we can get the message of knowing when to use your voice and when to use your venom. And that knowing goes with the keyword of wisdom for Solomon's seal. But going kind of deeper into the plant and animal, I learned that, of course, the Egyptian cobra is in fact a venomous snake, as the meaning suggests, knowing when to use your venom. It's also a snake that, in terms of its behavior, tends to be inclined towards avoiding confrontation and just kind of leaving whenever it can. But when it needs to, when it's cornered, then, the venom comes out. So the meaning, I think, really goes with the animal's behavior and, personality in a way that makes a lot of sense. And then the Solomon seal, having the keyword wisdom, I learned in reading about the cards yesterday that Solomon's seal in traditional Chinese medicine, among other things, is used to restore mental energy and mental vitality, and particularly to alleviate mental exhaustion. So in that sense, pairing the name of the plant Solomon seal with the keyword wisdom also makes quite clear sense. So it all just, the whole card really just goes together in this really cohesive way that I think is really fantastic. Another example is the Nubian giraffe. Beautiful. And the Nubian giraffe's message is to navigate through difficulties with your head held high. When things seem out of reach, stand taller. Don't doubt yourself. And so, of course, the giraffe most often has their head held high and can reach, the tops of trees and things like this. So there's an obvious kind of level of message and animal correspondence that, again, like the message for the cobra, will be readily apparent, kind of no other research needed. It's right there and it makes sense. Beyond that, though, I learned that the Nubian giraffe specifically is what is called the nominate subspecies of giraffe. And basically what this means is that giraffes were believed to only be one species for a long time. And it's only reasonably recently that there has been actually naming of different subspecies of giraffes. So what was, a description of, this is what a giraffe is. Now there's this proliferation of different descriptions that are slightly different for different subspecies populations of giraffe. And the Nubian giraffe being the nominate subspecies means that the originally described population that was like, this is the giraffe, is the Nubian giraffe. So thinking about a message of, foresight, which goes to the keyword for the plant on the card, which is Coreopsis, is the plant, with the keyword foresight. Foresight, seeing first or seeing early, can then make sense with the Nubian giraffe as well. And so Coreopsis as a plant to go with the name, Coreopsis to go with foresight, as a plant, also makes sense because I learned that in the language of flowers, which I was just reading about, the other day, again, going through these cards, it's not something that I know really anything about. But in the language of flowers, Coreopsis, one of its associated meanings is love at first sight. So then foresight, takes on that added meaning of first sight, right? And another name for Coreopsis is early sunrise. So again, in terms of kind of early or ahead, thinking about foresight, I feel like, again, everything in the card just really comes together between the giraffe and the plant. So that's, a great overall message for sure. And finally, one of my favorites, the okapi. There's the okapi. One of the mammals. Again, a mammal you don't often see in an animal deck, the okapi. And the okapi's message is embrace all aspects of you. Your uniqueness is your power. Let your spirit guide you. And it is paired with the keyword spiritual growth associated with the sacred lotus. So okapi being about embracing all parts of yourself, makes sense because the okapi has these stripes that make it look like it's a zebra from the back half, but actually, in terms of its family relations, its closest relative is over here, the giraffe, even though they don't really look alike, and the okapi does not have the big long neck like the giraffe. It almost looks like, in some ways, the okapi kind of looks like a couple of different animals in a kind of combination, right? So thinking about embracing all unique aspects of yourself, I think, is perfect for the okapi. And, letting your spirit guide you as the end of that message, going with sacred lotus, which as its message as its name suggests, sacred lotus, and the message of spiritual growth. Sacred lotus is sacred as a plant. In Hinduism, Buddhism, is also associated with longevity, so that gives an extra angle on the message of spiritual growth, and the fact that this is a plant that is particularly long-lived, and thinking about spiritual growth as a never-ending process, right? So that's just a couple of examples, but suffice to say that overall, I just think that this deck is really well put together. Like, everything about each card makes sense to me, which I think is fantastic. And there's so much to explore, right? There's actually 53 cards, right? So there's 53 animals. There's 52 plants because oak is on 2 of them. But that doesn't bother me one bit because oak is, one of the most globally widespread kinds of trees or kinds of plants. And I'm sure that oak has a lot to say, so that's just fine with me. And so I wanted to share something that I started working on yesterday as I'm going through this deck. And that is that I've decided to make my own guidebook for this deck. And I'm a little bit inspired here by Anna at Astral Lady Tarot, who I know makes guidebooks for some of her oracle decks as well. And since this oracle deck doesn't come with a guidebook, but I think does have so much in its associations that I want to dive into and remember, I decided to make my own. So it's very, very rough right now. I just found this notebook that I had in the house that just says notes on it to be my guidebook for this deck. And the notebook that I found just fits, will just fit inside this bag with the deck. So I'm going to keep it in there. I think what I'm going to do is maybe try to scan this, just the text, scan it and print it on printer paper so that I could maybe paste it on the front. I thought that would look good. I'm not the most crafty, but I'm going to try to make it look good. So where I started with was I made a table of contents based on the animals' names, and I numbered the pages at the bottom. And then the table of contents is a couple pages long. And then the way that it worked out is that I'll have the animal on one page. So there's angelfish is first. And then on the back of the page will be the plant that goes with that animal. So one of the things I plan to do going forward as I work with this deck is that I'm going to write into my little guidebook the messages and the keywords for the animals and the plants as I go through. I'll probably start with writing all of those in. All of the keywords, all of the messages will be into my little notebook. And then as I draw the cards and as I look into each one and explore kind of the different associations and why they make sense and why they make sense to me anyway, and learn different traits of the animal, their behavior, where they live, what they eat, what they do, their personalities, and so on, that relate to the message, then I'll write those in. And then also the same thing for the plants, any kind of information about the plant that I think might be relevant to the keyword or to the plant's message in general, I'll write in the book as well. So I'm really looking forward to working with this deck as a monthly draw. I've been drawing an animal every month of this year, so I'm going to switch over and start using this deck for a while for that purpose. So then I will have, and I share these in my monthly end of month kind of recap videos, picking an animal for the next month. I'll have a monthly animal and a monthly plant, which will be great, I think. And beyond that, I think this will be maybe a message of the day for me. Other ways to work with it. I'm certainly not only going to shuffle this deck and work with it once a month. So I'll be exploring and filling in my guidebook as I go, which will be fun. So I'm already at 26 minutes. I will wrap up here. But in terms of concluding thoughts, I think that the Flora and Fauna of Africa Oracle deck by Jessi Jumanji is fantastic. And I think that this is a fantastic animal oracle deck. No matter how experienced you are in working with animal decks, and no matter how much you feel like you know or don't know about animals. I know for some folks, an animal deck might be a bit intimidating if they don't feel like they have strong associations built up about a lot of animals or something like that. But this one has the messages on the card, so it's really approachable straight out of the box. But I also feel like in terms of, again, the ways that the messages really go with the animal on the card and the ways that the animal and the plant combinations can be read together. I think that this is a deck that also offers a lot, to more animal deck experienced readers as well, because there's a lot to really delve into and to research and to learn about and to explore with this deck and its message as well. So again, I'm really looking forward to working with this deck, and I think it's just fantastic. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all a great day.